Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Organization representing persons living with disabilities reacts to new NHT policy. New police partnership to help restore peace in Gregory Park in Portmore, St. Catherine. And later in sports, increased number of schools for schoolboy football. I'm Herman Green, and here are the details. At least one organization that represents persons living with disabilities has reacted to the National Housing Trust's new policy. The new policy changes the interest rates, subsidies, which parliamentary opposition claims will negatively affect vulnerable groups and civil servants. Sandy Williams tells us more.
Under the new policy, the National Housing Trust, NHT, has doubled its special grant for persons with disabilities to $300,000 and has also doubled the number of persons with disabilities who can apply for the grant per household. Additionally, contributors who earn above $30,000 and below $42,000 per week will pay 2%, while those who earn more than $42,000 per week will pay 4%. According to Prime Minister Andrew Holness, the policy change is to ensure people who don't qualify for mortgages from the NHT are still able to get a house. But the St. Catherine-based Portmore Self-Help Disability Organization believes the policy change will prohibit some of its members from certain benefits. Cleon Porter is director of the organization.
There are persons who are civil servants, many civil servants who have disability issues also, and based upon the 30,000 per week, they would be excluded from this new policy that the government taking, because based upon their salary, they would be working more than that. So they wouldn't be able to get that 0% interest rate.
He explains that the members deserve to benefit from the 0% interest rate.
The civil servants, especially the police officers who work hard, and many of them get injured in duty, shot, accident, and different things, they should get that 0% interest rate. So these people are heroes. We're nurses, we're teachers. So we need the government to adjust this matter, get this matter sorted out, because these people need to be taken care of, because they have their medical bills. The medical bills are high. Some of them lose their job because of their medical issues.
Meanwhile, Mr. Porter is calling for more affordable housing solutions for persons living with disabilities.
We need us to be at least 4 million for them, between 4 to 6 million, that these one person can purchase a house. Because when they join with members of family members and friends, you realize that they take advantage of them, and they end up use them to get the benefit and throw them out. So they'll end up don't have anywhere to live. And it's our organization have to be helping them and other organizations.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
The police have partnered with the Social Development Commission, the church, and Justices of the Peace to organize a football and talent competition this Saturday to help restore peace in Gregory Park, St. Catherine. The groups did a walkthrough of the area, which has been plagued by crime and violence in recent times, to sensitize residents about the planned competition and to get their support.
The plan is, in order to get the persons out, is also to provide some transportation to and from the locations, sponsored by SDC, and with the patrols going about just to reassure them, of their safety.
Even some of the social services, we might have some of them on spot, just to give some guidance to some of the unattached, where we can solve some of the other cases.
So we want persons from the community to come out, DJs, singers, dancers, everybody. We want you to come out and express yourself in a cultural way, in a positive way, so that we can build back the vibes in Gregory Park and, build self-efficacy, build back the confidence of persons to move around in the community of Gregory Park. We have a studio on board that will be giving free recording time for the winner, and also Agent Sasko has committed to select one of the participants to produce a song from that participant.
A 34-year-old cane cutter is now in custody facing a murder charge after he allegedly killed his ex-girlfriend in the presence of her 8-year-old child in Louisville, St. Catherine. 35-year-old Alicia Patience was stabbed to death on Monday at her home in Dunfa District, that's in Louisville. It's reported that about 7 p.m., Miss Patience was in bed with her 8-year-old child when the suspect broke in and stabbed her in the neck with a knife. The child was not harmed. Community members held the suspect and handed him over to the police. It's alleged that Miss Patience was killed after she ended the relationship with the suspect. And investigators have launched a search for armed robbers who made off with more than $500,000 from customers at a hardware store in Ocheria, St. Anne yesterday. About 10 in the morning, 2 men, one of them a Jamaican who lives in the United States, were purchasing items at the hardware store when a man wearing a mask entered and pointed a gun at them. The men were reportedly robbed of $513,000, a laptop computer, and other items. The robber escaped on a waiting motorcycle. It's unclear if the recent or previous contamination of the Rio Cobre or any other untreated water in St. Catherine may have contributed to some of the health issues doctors identified in children at a recent back-to-school health fair. Several students from schools across St. Catherine got free health care from an overseas medical mission organized by the Dint Hill Technical Alumni Association in Florida.
Environmental contamination, exposure to toxins, pesticides, and so forth, causing skin eruption. Those are always concerned, especially in the rural areas.
The National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, said yesterday that remnants of the latest chemical spill from bauxite company Windalco washed down from contaminated gullies into the tributary of the Rio Cobre during heavy rains this week. However, it said it did not see signs of contamination in the Rio Cobre itself. Meanwhile, overseas doctors also noted other health concerns among some of the children at the health fair.
We've seen individuals with skin disorder. We have one young woman with a very rapid heart rate. She had what we call tachycardia. So we're going to make sure she gets seen by a cardiologist.
Meanwhile, the organizer of the back-to-school health fair wants mental health services to be included on their next trip to help students who are still struggling with the impact of COVID-19. The overseas doctors also urge Jamaicans to pay greater attention to optical health to prevent vision loss as the use of electronic devices increases. Krista Campbell has that report.
There's been no shortage of discussion on how the COVID pandemic has negatively impacted children's mental health in Jamaica. And at last week's back-to-school health fair in St. Catherine, the organizer outlined plans to address that concern.
We have a lot of kids who need special help. We just identified a kid that is having some serious problems, and I'm hoping we can have some mental health teaching or help in Jamaica for them. Because 2 weeks ago, this kid tried hurting herself.
Meanwhile, the rise of virtual learning in Jamaica as a result of the pandemic continues to cause concerns about eye health, especially among children. The overseas doctors said 10% of the 50 children they had seen up to the time of our interview needed glasses.
Some children, some adults have issues with eye strain, and in those conditions, it may be useful to consider using what we call blue filter lenses, which can filter some of the blue light, which we know can be very straining on the eyes.
Ophthalmologist Dr. Zubair Ansari recommends taking frequent breaks from the screen.
Every hour, I recommend taking a 20-second break away from the computer and looking at an object at least 20 feet away. And so, that's in an effort to kind of prevent eye strain, headaches, and other types of ocular issues. The other thing, too, that can happen is folks' eyes can tend to dry out when they're on the computer or watching the television for a long period of time, as they don't blink their eyes when they're watching the computer. And so we always recommend to have lubrication drops somewhere at home to prevent folks from having irritation or dry eye symptoms.
He stressed the importance of treating eye issues early in childhood to prevent vision loss later. Meanwhile, he raised concern about eye conditions related to sun exposure.
So things like pterygiums, which can grow as you get older. And then there's always a risk of, cancers as well, certain types of cancers that can be associated with sun exposure. And so we always recommend any child, adult really, in any tropical environment to wear sunglasses. We also recommend wearing sunscreen to prevent any skin cancers.
And not just any old sunglasses, but sunglasses with UV protection.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And still on health, here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In this evening's health report, we look at mental health issues during the summer period.
Now, we've had to suffer through 2 years of having the kids at the house doing online schooling, finally got them back out to the house to go to school, and now they're back home during summer. There is no school, and so it's going to be somewhat of a challenge. So this particular summer is going to be very telling in terms of how we deal with our own mental health.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Stay active. Talk to someone. Take up a relaxation practice. Get adequate rest and eat healthy.
Now, there was a roller coaster of emotions during Education Minister Favour Williams' presentation at the Jamaica Teachers Association conference, which is currently taking place in St. James. The much-anticipated speech comes amidst a slew of concerns from teachers. The minister was given the cold shoulder when she spoke about the sixth form pathway program.
To date, over 17,000 students have pre-registered for the upcoming September year, telling us that our students see the value in the additional 2 years of school. Do I hear an amen? Do I hear an amen for our students? No? Okay.
Now, Minister Williams says she is not pleased with the teaching conditions of the educators and is working to improve them. However, the teachers are getting impatient.
I'm not happy with the conditions in many of our schools. We're shoring up the team at the ministry to be able to better respond to the needs of the schools. We hope very soon that when Madam President speaks again, instead of holding up one finger, representing the number of building officers in a region, she'll be able to hold up many fingers.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Cody and Barrett.
In the world of business, cannabis company Kaya will open a wellness center in October in the Blue Mountains, which will become its 5th retail complex. Kaya's founder, Bali Vaswani, said the center, called The Gap, will open in 3 phases. Phase 1 will see the opening of a food and beverage division. Phase 2 includes the opening of 3 rooms and cottages for a bed and breakfast or B&B service, while the 3rd phase will see the launch of the wellness division. The size of the investment was not disclosed. The Registrar General's Department, RGD, is looking to reintroduce island-wide delivery. This would make it easier for customers to access its services seamlessly from start to finish. The entity recently rolled out 3 new online products, an online application facility for adoption certificates, a real-time search engine for entry numbers, and an online wedding registry service. Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, Floyd Green, said while the agency is working to have 100% of its services accessible online, additional steps are still needed. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And it's now time for the top regional and international news with Sandy Williams.
In the region, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, RBDF, says it has detained more than 100 Haitian migrants found on an overloaded sailboat called a sloop in waters around the CARICOM country. The RBDF says the 111 migrants, including 5 children and 14 women, were spotted between the Bahamas and Cuba. It says the illegal migrants will be turned over to immigration officials for processing. Bahamian authorities have said they expect to apprehend a record number of Haitian migrants this year, with more than 2,350 detained so far compared to 249 in 2020 and 1,644 last year. On the international scene, a former security chief for Twitter has turned whistleblower and testified that the company misled users and U.S. regulators about gaps in its security. Peter Zatko also claimed Twitter underestimated how many fake and spam accounts are on its platform. He also accused Twitter of failing to maintain stringent security practices and lying about software applications called bots to billionaire Elon Musk, who wants to buy the social media company. But Twitter says Mr. Zatko's allegations are inaccurate and inconsistent. It says he was sacked in January for ineffective leadership and poor performance. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
All right, thanks, Jordan. And that's it for the Midday Package. I'm Herman Green. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for watching. Primetime News is at 7. Please join us then.